Welcome to Golic and Smetty.
I'm Mike Golic.
I'm Jessica Smetana.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Golic and Smetty. Mike Golic Sr. here. She is Jess Smetana, and we are bummed. We are sad. We are distraught. We are downtrodden. I'm trying to think of any other words that
Dejected,
could describe our feelings. If for anybody
depressed,
listening or watching that doesn't know yet, or just tuning in for the first time, Jess and I are both Notre Dame grads. She 2016, me 1985. Yes, go ahead and insert jokes here. Jess usually does. She age discriminates all the time against me. By the way,
just like Ryan Day.
As a quick, yeah, how about it? Ryan,
and Washington State's head coach too. We'll get to that.
Jack Dickert did the same thing to
Lee Corso.
Lee Corso. But first, about age discrimination, what was that tweet that you had? Was it a tweet or Instagram where a picture of your young parents and you being young, and say, if only I could go back and warn your mom about you rip your dad as much as me on this show. What the hell was that all about?
It wasn't warning my mom about my dad. It was warning young me about being a Notre Dame fan, because I think at the point that photo had been taken of me, it was probably like a year away from the Bush push. It was probably like fourth grade. And I was not warning my mom about my dad. I was warning young Jessica, please go to Alabama, be a fan of the Crimson Tide, go to Georgia, go somewhere else, because Notre Dame has just ripped my heart out, Mike, year in and year out since I was born.
Yeah. Well, so first off, I'm glad it wasn't about warning your mom about your dad, because of your comments about your father and about me as aging men, I thought for sure, because you had done it before and ripping your dad, that's what it was about. So I'm glad to know that's not what you were doing. It makes me feel a little bit better, even because you've done that in the past. And so again, I mean, we had a monster weekend of college football. We'll get to the NFL, and we're going to talk to Niele Ivey, Notre Dame women's basketball coach, and preview what's coming up. They're going to Paris soon to play a game against South Carolina. How cool is that? But the college this past weekend, we had more age discrimination going on that we'll get to. We had 6 ranked teams plus a ranked Florida State against an unranked Clemson team, which ended up going to overtime. That started the Saturday at noon. But Jess, I know you were in town. We had a lot of people here. The place was going nuts. College game day was in town for Notre Dame and Ohio State, a 6-9 matchup. And listen, everybody was wearing green. When Notre Dame went down 10-0 in that game, I thought, oh no. But then I thought to myself, this is why we got Sam Hartman. We got Sam Hartman for when we were down by 2 scores or more. We should be able to come back now. In the last few years, we didn't have a passing quarterback and couldn't do that. And sure enough, it's exactly what happened. We go up 14-10 in that game. And then we have a chance with, there's a decent amount of time left, 6, 7, 8 minutes. But we have a chance to control the ball and eat up a lot of time and not give Ohio State a lot of time. We don't do it. Then we have a chance to stop Ohio State with our defense from going down and scoring, and we don't do it. And we compound it by the last 2 plays, more importantly, the last play only having 10 guys on the field. So we had our chances to win this game. We were in position to win this game, and we had a chance offensively, didn't do it, defensively didn't do it, and then the mistake from a coaching staff and player standpoint of not having enough players on the field for the 1-yard touchdown run by Ohio State. So give Ohio State credit. I think for Kyle McCord, their quarterback, was a big step for him, gaining confidence for the rest of the year, because they're going to have a couple of big games against Penn State and Michigan still. But this was one, Jess, we have seen this song and dance before, been in big games that just can't have the lead when the clock strikes 0. And this one was a killer because that ball was literally on the goal line.
Yeah.
With 1 second to go. It couldn't have been closer. Oh,
even
unreal.
with 10 men, it was still so close. Yeah. And it was the same end zone as the Bush push too. It is incredibly disappointing. Like we've already said, a really terrible mistake from the coaching staff to not have the right personnel in there. And Ohio State, coming out of a timeout too, I should say, Ohio State didn't even realize the first play that there were only 10 men, because they threw a pass, which was incomplete, and then got another shot. And Marcus Freeman's explanation after the game was that he didn't want to cause a penalty and give them another free shot, basically to punch it in. But you just can't let that happen. There's really no excuse for it. And I think the reason that so many Notre Dame fans are feeling like crap about this is because this was one that in almost every metric, Notre Dame outplayed Ohio State in this game, and passing efficiency, rushing efficiency. It just was theirs to win, and credit to Ohio State, because that last drive, like that they did a great job. Notre Dame gave them a first down on 3rd and 19, which I think the coaching staff's going to want to look at, figure out what went wrong there. The time was running out. It was brutal, Mike. It's a brutal way to lose that game. And like you said, they had the ball. The offense had the ball with, I think, 4.5 minutes left.
Yeah, that's right. It was less time than I even gave it. Yeah. And that's, they just burn the clock, man.
Burn the clock, run the ball. And Audric Estime was kind of missing on some plays towards the end of the game, which was weird. Their best running back. But like overall, I thought the team actually played really well. I thought, there weren't a lot of mistakes. And when the defense drops like 2 game-stealing picks on the last drive, you just know, like, it's not their night. Like, it's just never their night, and it's not their night again.
It was, and I think even on that last play, as you mentioned, the 2 plays, they had 10 players, and they tried the one-on-one out there with Morrison. I'm sorry, with Harrison, and it was incomplete. I believe Ohio State substituted then. Which would have meant we could have substituted a player in, or in this case, brought a player in, I believe. Now, unless it was too late and the refs had already signaled, let the play run, then we couldn't have run somebody on because it was too late. Either way, a mistake not having a guy. For anybody who didn't see it, we were Notre Dame had 10 players, and they were short of D linemen right where Ohio State ran the ball. And as you mentioned, Jess, they still barely made it into the end zone. Not to say if we had the D linemen, it would have been different, but always helps to have a gun at a gunfight and not a knife at a gunfight, right?
It helps when you have the full amount of players on the field that you're allowed to have. But yeah, like you said, I mean, the game, like that was obviously the game-winning touchdown, but that wasn't there's so many other things that I think Notre Dame that is the most, I think, embarrassing thing for the coaching staff, that they cannot let happen ever again. But there's so many other ways Notre Dame could have won that game. Even if you look in the first half, like coming out of the first half with not a single point after you've had 2 pretty good drives, ended up in scoring position, in Ohio State territory. I think that's like, you can't let that happen when you're playing against a team like Ohio State. So credit to them. Ryan Day in the post game, Mike, kind of made himself the story in a very, like, I want to say Brian Kelly-esque way, instead of like being very complimentary to the team, and especially a young quarterback, for driving down the field and scoring a touchdown, on the road, decided to get mad at Lou Holtz. What was your takeaway from that?
Well, I mean, Lou Holtz, again, I think is 86 years old, had said, and listen, if you're Ohio State, you'd be ticked off hearing comments where Lou had said, he had been on an Ohio State coaching staff back in the day, and basically saying that Ohio State now is soft, and not as tough. So I would take that. I would be mad about that as well. But I don't know if I'd go on TV and rip an 86-year-old man, much like Jake Dickert, the coach at Washington State, ripped Lee Corso, who on game day, when talking about Washington State and Oregon State, said the nobody's going to watch bowl. I mean, the coach for Washington State took off on Lee for saying that. I'm like, wow, what is it? Is it pick on the old timers day?
It must be. I mean, it's always that day on Golic and Smetty, but I went back and listened to what Corso said, and he said it's the nobody wants us bowl, because those teams are not in a conference.
That's right. You're right. You're right.
I think Dickert either misheard him, or maybe someone told him that he said nobody watches bowl. I don't know. Maybe it's someone else's fault and he went with it. I don't know. But either way, totally ripped Lee Corso for it, even though it was a misquote. And I don't think Corso was don't think he's wrong. Like they're both left out right now.
Right. Nobody wanted them. So if he said want, yes, nobody wanted
brutal.
them. So he was actually right.
I think Ryan Day kind of took the heat off of Jake Dickert by doing it on national television. And like, Mike, the best thing about the Notre Dame Ohio State game, not only did Notre Dame lose with 10 men on the field, like 10 and a half or like 14 and a half million people were watching at the end of the game. So just like a nationally embarrassing way for it to end, and everyone saw it.
Everyone saw it. It absolutely was. A couple of notes.
I'm laughing.
There were multiple NFL players on that field, but to watch Marvin Harrison Jr. and give that guy credit for hurting his ankle, going off, getting it taped up and coming out and being a factor again. But when Benjamin Morrison, Notre Dame's cornerback, lined up on Marvin Harrison, that is 2 first-rounders who were lining up against one another. I mean, that was really, really fun to watch. Benjamin Morrison's going to leave Notre Dame as the best cornerback to play there, I believe. I mean, the kid is incredible. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is he's the best receiver in football. So that was cool. And to put a bow on this, because I want to talk about Colorado really quick, Notre Dame fans will be now Ohio State fans. Root for Ohio State. Notre Dame needs 1 loss. Now, listen, their schedule is tough. A ranked Duke team again at Duke on a night game, or College game day will be there as well. You still have SC to play. You still have Clemson to play. So it's tough, but
Louisville might be ranked.
Exactly. So if Notre Dame ends up with 1 loss and it's to Ohio State, and Ohio State can win out, which is still going to be tough. They got Penn State and Michigan. Notre Dame's going to be right where they want to be, but now they've given themselves no margin for error because we're not in the 12-team playoff yet. We're still in the 4-team, and no 2-loss team has ever made it. So it would be the end for Notre Dame if they lose another one. So we'll wait and see on that. Disappointment there. Disappointment, I'm sure, in Colorado, but still had to be expected. Oregon just took Colorado to the woodshed. No other way to say it. Took them absolutely to the woodshed. A lot of people predicted this. Colorado was 21-point underdog. But, man, I am amazed at I guess it's because when you try and talk a big game and you get smacked down, people start, kind of throwing shade at you. All the people getting on Deion. Deion has turned this program around. When Deion said, do you believe, there's a whole wide gap of belief. There's, I believe you've turned this team around, or do I believe you're now a national contender? Well, you're not that, but you have turned this program around. So kudos to you for doing that. They're going in the right direction. I think they're only going to get better. But boy, oh boy, it seemed like a lot of people were really happy that Deion got and his team got knocked around in this game.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And I think just the fact that we're talking about a week 4 Colorado-Oregon game kind of proves what Deion has accomplished there.
Yep, exactly.
I'm interested to see how the rest of the season pans out because, like, you saw the real disparity in the trenches in this game. Like, Colorado got pushed around. They were not able to run the ball at all. They were not really able to move it. And Shedeur Sanders was on the run most of the game, trying to get away from these big Oregon edge rushers and had very little protection. So I'm interested to see how the rest of the season goes for them. But I think regardless, the fact that you had 2 weekends ago, millions of people watching a really late game against Colorado State, like, you can't take that away from Colorado, even if they end up finishing the year, with a above 500 record, but not in a huge bowl game. Like, I wouldn't have expected that before the season. I was saying that this was going to be a much longer turnaround time for them.
I agree. And I think they'll get bowl eligible. I think they got 3 more wins
in
them. So I think they'll get there. They're just not in the weight class of Oregon, and they're going to play USC. They're not in the weight class of USC either. And as Deion, and I knew Deion would handle it well after the game, said, listen, we got our butts kicked. And then he also said, get us now. This is the worst we're going to be. And I believe him there. They have got to recruit big on the D-line and the O-line. That's where they need to step up their game to compete with the better teams right now. They're just not there yet, but the program is definitely on the rise. They're going to have a tough game against USC and more games this year, but I do think they will get bowl eligible, and I think it's a good story.
And I did think it was funny that Dan Lanning, he's a good coach and he's doing a good job at Oregon, like, give him tons of credit for this. It's a huge win when everyone's watching this game. Made a comment about Oregon being rooted in substance, not flash. Yeah. Like, this has been pointed out by other people, but Oregon is the team that famously has like 7 new uniforms a season.
Yes.
And like their entire thing is like they're like part of this Nike marketing machine. So like let's take a deep breath. Like Flash is not a bad thing. Let's all relax for a second.
Yeah.
You guys won. Good job. You did it. Let's move on.
Flash is, there's nothing wrong with Flash as long as there's some substance. And right now Oregon has both.
Yeah.
And I don't mind Dan Lanning saying all that stuff because it's all about motivating his players.
It works.
And just how Deion motivates his players, Dan Lanning was motivating his players. So I'm cool with how all of it went down. As Colorado gets their first loss, and Oregon and Washington play in a couple of weeks, and that is going to be a monumental matchup. So we will see how that goes. So coming up next, let's jump to the NFL. I covered Jess's favorite team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, on Sunday Night Football. They got a win, but God, that game was somewhat ugly. We'll talk about that next. Golic and Smetty. All right, Jess. So we have the weekend of NFL football is now over. We have let me start it this way. We have 3 undefeated teams left. We have the Miami Dolphins, who put up 70 on Denver, which we'll get into, which was unbelievable. We have the Eagles, whose defense looks just stifling right now. And we have the 49ers, who may have the most weapons on offense, not the most speed like Miami, but may have the most weapons. Those are the last 3 undefeated teams. Throw them into the blender right now. Who do you think, and it's early, but who would you put out on top right now?
Man, I just feel like every year I want to say the 49ers are going to blow it, but every year they end up so much farther along in the playoffs than I expect. So I think I'm just going to ride the 49ers bandwagon now as long as they're driving it, because like it's hard to picture them having any sort of come apart the way that I think Miami, I still am worried about Tua. They look great. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. Like I think putting 70 up on any team in the NFL is pretty crazy, but I am worried about Tua still. I am worried that he could get hurt. The main issue last year, they looked like a really good team last year, and then everything unraveled. So I think it's between the 49ers and the Eagles, but I would go with the 49ers.
Yeah, I think it's between them too. And I think the thing holding back Miami is not the offense, it's the defense.
Yeah.
They still need to pick up their slack a little more. Of the 3 teams, San Francisco has the best ranked defense. Their rush defense, they're so good. Rush defense is good, but the rush defense for Philly is even better. Yeah. Just 48 yards a game. And Philly just ran for over 200 yards on Tampa, which had the second best rush defense in the league until that game. So I would lean toward one of those teams as well. But boy, what's the worst in your competitive life? Can you remember a worst loss that you had?
I remember being on the other side of that, like winning a soccer game, like 15-0. And like, that's not even fun. Like it's at some point you have to have a meeting between the referee and the coaches and just like, let's keep the clock running for the rest of this game or something. It was brutal. And it was in 3 quarters too, Mike. Like they took out Tua in the 4th quarter. And I just can't believe, like we always talk about how the NFL has so much parity, and on any given week, you know, one team could beat another team, but the Broncos defense, like, how do you fix that? You just can't, right? Like, I don't know where you go from here.
I can't, as a former defensive player, you know, I've been in some big wins and some big losses, nothing ever like that.
Oh, you know what I just thought of? The last time that 2 old guys kicked me and Lee's asses playing pickleball, that was how, I think that's how the Broncos felt. Which
is exactly what me and my wife would do to you and Lee as well. We did it to my son Mike and Jenny, Jake's wife, because Jenny was, or because Jake's back was hurting a little bit. So we're kicking young people all over the place. So we would do it to you and Lee as well.
Honestly, probably.
But I mean,
I'd like to see it.
Being on that defensive side and going in that meeting and watching that, I can't even fathom. One of the questions coming out of it, though, on Gojo and Golic, we talked to Durham Smythe, came on the tight end for Notre Dame, for Miami, former Notre Dame tight end as well.
Classmate.
We asked him, and he gave the player thought when I said, listen, did you guys talk about the fact you were 2 points away from an NFL record and kicking a field goal? And he gave the correct player response. No, we were up on that. We don't want to do that. And I get it. But I was like, man, this is the NFL. Man, I would have had no problem trying to get the NFL record. And if I was the other team, if I were the Broncos, I wouldn't be able to say a damn word about it because I say stop them. So I was hoping they would go for the NFL record, which is 72 points. Field goal would have gave Miami 73.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I don't think there's any shame in going for a record, especially a record like this that I can't even remember the last time. I think I read that the last team that, scored 73 points and broke the record was like 60 years ago or something like that, Mike. Like, this is just so.
When I was born.
Yeah, I mean, forever ago. I saw Ryan Nanny, who we had on the show a few weeks, said that this is a college football score, and he is absolutely right, because I've been to college football. I went to a Clemson Louisville game in 2018. I think the final was 77-16, which is not far off from 70-20. And I was like, yeah, I mean, these are the kinds of scores you see in sports where there is not parity, where there is a huge talent disparity. So, I mean, I think we said, like, after Sean Payton got hired for the Broncos, it can't get worse than last year with Hackett. Like, so many things went wrong with him in Denver that the only way forward is for them to be a little bit better with Payton. But after 3 weeks, I'm not so sure about that anymore.
Well, Nathaniel Hackett can quietly or loudly, if he wants to, say, I never gave up 70 points in a game in my year there. So,
blew a ton of games.
Yeah, exactly.
Every game.
Yeah, kind of screwed up some timing things and all. But
like Josh McDaniels.
By the way, in going to that game, you talk about Brandon Staley probably with the Chargers, and they just lost Mike Williams, so a tough loss. And Josh McDaniels are probably, and you always hate when people lose jobs, but are two guys that are probably on the hot seat. I did the Sunday night game, your Steelers, in visiting the Raiders, and it wasn't a pretty game from the Raiders side at all.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh got their offense going a little bit, got the running game going a little bit, which you would expect because the first two games were San Francisco and Cleveland, two excellent defenses. Yeah. Oakland is anything but an excellent defense. So they got their offense going a little more. But do you have confidence in Pittsburgh, though, in that offense this year to actually make a bit of make it to the playoffs or a playoff run?
I mean, it's like what you said. Like, the first two games, I think, were a bad sample size because not every defense in the NFL is as good as those two defenses, but not every defense is as bad as the Raiders defense. So maybe they're somewhere in between, like what we saw the first 2 weeks and the third week, which is still not very good in my opinion. And there's also a report before the game, which is baffling to me, that Matt Canada is now taking on a larger role with the offense and being more of like a Kenny Pickett QB coach. So the fact that the Steelers haven't even really, and I don't know where this report came from, so taking it, take this all with a grain of salt, but the fact that they maybe haven't even considered a change there and in fact are like doubling down on it, I think is pretty concerning to me. But like you said, they looked 10 times more competent against the Raiders than they did the first 2 weeks. And they are very lucky that Josh McDaniels bailed them out at the end of the game by kicking a field goal, getting a leverage. The Steelers got a leverage penalty called on them, trying to block the field goal. They ended up basically like a minute of clock got burned. They had to kick again on fourth down. Instead of going for it, he decides to do it again. They make the field goal, but they needed a touchdown.
Still need a touchdown. Jess, I'm in the booth. I'm in the booth, and this is going on. And I thought I was losing my mind. I'm like, am I just doing something wrong in my head here? They were on the 8-yard line of the Raiders. They had a 3rd and 3. They could get a first down at the 5. Threw it, incomplete pass. I'm like, okay, you got to go for it. I would have run that play. I'd have tried to get closer to the first down to get a new set of downs. Touchdown, 2-point conversion. You tie the ball game. They incomplete, 4th and 3 at the 8. You need the 5 for a first down. He lined up to kick a field goal. I thought I was losing my mind. I'm like, what the hell is he doing? Your offense is already struggling. Now you're expecting your defense to get another stop. Then your offense
and
to
your
go the
offense,
length of the
which
field.
Jimmy G has, I mean, I think I saw that he's in concussion protocol now. I mean, he got sacked. Can't even remember how many times, but they were putting so much pressure on him. He was, it was bad. I mean, the fact that I guess maybe if you think, you don't trust the Steelers offense, you think they're going to give the ball right back, which they did. But then you also have, like you said, your offense still has to score a touchdown.
You're on the 8-yard line and can get a first down in 3 yards and it's 3rd down. I do not understand the move at all. Garoppolo was sacked 4 times.
There you go.
And quickly, for your edification, with Matt Canada being the O coordinator since 21, since his time there, The offense is 26th in the league in points per game, 31st in the league at yards per play, and 30th in passing yards downfield. And they're the only team, and this even precedes Canada, that hasn't, in his era, though, they've had no 400-yard offensive games.
And Mike, I saw that on Sunday night. It was the first time a Steelers quarterback had thrown 2 touchdowns in a game in more than 2 seasons. How is that possible?
It's amazing. And by the way, for your Steelers, it's the first time they beat a Raiders team on the road. And that's why I say Raiders team, because they've been in different spots. But it's the first time they beat them on the road. It was
basically a home game.
First time they beat them on the road, Jess, since you were 1 year old, 1995.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a stat.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
there you go.
I don't feel better about the Steelers, but at least I'm not a Raiders fan. And I needed that because emotionally, Mike, I was in hell Sunday. I pretty much haven't stopped binge eating since Saturday around 11 p.m. I am emotionally distraught. And that brought me a small amount of joy, but I am sorry that you had to call that game.
Yeah, that's okay. Is there anything else in the NFL that stood out to you over the weekend?
Dallas.
Yeah. I mean,
okay. So first off, like, yeah, if you think the Cardinals are tanking, it is hard to tank because
it's hard to tank, and players aren't ever part of tanking. Players want to win.
And like, I'm so happy for Josh Dobbs because he's been on like 5 different teams. He's only 28 years old, been a backup most of his time in the NFL. Starting for the Cardinals, like inexplicably this season, gets a win against Dallas, which everyone thought they were maybe one of, when we talked about the 3 undefeated teams at the beginning of the segment, everyone thought Dallas would easily be one of those before this game started. But I know Dallas has a lot of injuries. Do you worry about them not being healthy? Do you worry about the red zone issues with Dak? Like, what do you who do you blame for this?
I worry about a number of things, and health of that O-line is one, especially with 2 older players in Zach Martin and Tyron Smith. And he was out. They were both out, as long as their center as well. So they had 3 starting O-linemen out of that game. So I worry about those guys getting nicked up. You worry about them in the red zone. And this defense, which was supposed to be, and very well still could be, the best in the league, gave up 28 points, 26, 28 points to Arizona. I mean, and 28 points, and none, it was all offensive scores against this defense. So that was a little worrisome as well. This just goes to show you that any Sunday, it can all, it can happen, that one team can beat another. So that was surprising to me. The Jets, I still don't understand why they haven't gotten a veteran quarterback just to be there as a security blanket. And now you may actually need a veteran quarterback in there just to kind of, you're not going to be as good as if Aaron was in there, but maybe to stabilize, because you're getting a lot of frustrated players who thought this team was going to be better, and it would have been with Aaron Rodgers. But man, it is spiraling right now.
Yeah. Also spiraling in Chicago. Maybe we'll get to that after we talk to Coach Ivey. But we're going to bring Niele Ivey on, the head coach of the Notre Dame women's basketball team, and pivot our sad thoughts about college football into happy thoughts about women's basketball. Very excited to welcome Niele Ivey onto the show. Niele, I cannot wait for women's basketball season to start. And I also think after this weekend in South Bend, emotionally, we need this. We need to pivot a little bit into more exciting times. My first question, how was your off-season trip to Croatia? Because it looked amazing.
It was unbelievable. And it's like one of the perks of being here at Notre Dame, that you get a chance to travel internationally and give the team like that cultural experience and also play. So we went 2-0. The team was we just had such a great time. And Greece and Croatia is just unbelievably gorgeous. We were in the water a lot. So we were, yachting, and we had a all white outfit party and all kind of stuff. So it was an amazing, just life-changing experience for all of us.
Yeah, that sounded like it was. And speaking of travel, you're going to travel again to Paris for a game with South Carolina on November 6th. So how do you go about setting up that whole trip with travel and working? And obviously, you want the kids to have some fun, You want the young adults, young women to have some fun, but it's also a business trip. You're playing a game. So how do you set all that up?
Yes, well, it's a lot of planning behind the scenes. It was something that was offered maybe in my first year. Honestly, I got an email about it. about the matchup and the experience and the opportunity. So it's been in the works for a while, and just our travel agent, South Carolina's, and so many different behind the scenes scheduling and itinerary and all that stuff. So a lot is going into this game, and just I guess like on the court wise, it's just going to be an incredible matchup going against one of my idols and Dawn Staley. South Carolina just coming off of a Final Four. So an incredible matchup. I always like challenging my team, like as far as our non-conference schedule. So what better way to start the season with opening up in, versus South Carolina, and really kind of measuring where we're at. But we're just excited.
I hope that when my daughter swam there, they traveled out of the country and they left it up to the young women to have their passports. And I guess it's more my fault. We found out too late that Sydney's was expired, and we'd had a mad rush to get that done.
Oh boy!
So are you doing that differently? Are you gathering everybody's passports so you have them in hand and not trusting them to have to do it?
Absolutely. I'm fortunate that I have an incredible staff. My director of ops, she does a fantastic job. She probably has them on hand right now. And fortunately, because we went to Croatia, we already have them. They're all, right. Everything is going to be great. No passports expired, but yes, that's the first thing we are worried about. We're like, check in at the airport and then, give me your passport for the entire trip. Yeah. I cannot count on them knowing where that is.
Can you give us an update on how Olivia Miles is doing and when you expect to see her back on the court?
Yes, she's doing great. She's headed into 6 months post-surgery, and rehab is fantastic. Right now, she's just working on her strength and her quads and things like that. So she's healthy, everything looks great. And it's just a time, we're on kind of like a timetable for her. Because some people come back 6 months, some people come back a little bit longer, 9 months. It's totally an individual thing. But she's in great spirits. She's just kind of like chomping at the bit, watching us practice and wanting to get out there and contribute a little bit more. But she's doing a great job in the weight room and leading from the sideline, which is really, really difficult, but she's doing a great job and looks great.
I know you have some exciting freshman players coming in. How do you expect to not replace Olivia because she is irreplaceable, but how do you expect to kind of fill the gap and like find someone to play in that role while she's still out?
Yes. Well, fortunately, I have a fantastic freshman point guard, Hannah Hidalgo from Jersey. She won pretty much every award you can win last year as a high school senior, Gatorade, New Jersey Player of the Year. She's come in, just won she won the U19. She was an All-Star 5 this summer in Madrid, coming off a gold medal. And she's just honestly fantastic. She's so mature, very high IQ. She's honestly just already changed the program with the way that she plays, her tenacity defensively and just her leadership and her ability to pretty much do it all. So she's been fantastic. And I kind of put her in the fire early with a foreign tour. She's kind of helping as we're waiting for Liv to return to us. And then outside of her, it's kind of point guard by committee. We have Sonia Citron, who was fantastic, helped me run the point last year. I have a grad transfer, Anna DeWolf from Fordham, and she's doing a great job of helping us run the point outside of Hannah. So got a few ball handlers on the team now that's going to help. And then, awaiting Liv to come back and join us and bring her gift with us.
So while you get a couple of portal players in, you're one of 5 Division I teams that lost no players going to another team. How did that happen? Because that seems almost impossible nowadays.
I know that honestly, like there's so many things that I'm so grateful for last season. That's one of them, top 5, that I retained the whole team with the nature of collegiate athletics right now. So I'm really fortunate that my team, I feel like I have the right players, and they're really committed and bought into what I'm trying to build. But yeah, I mean, it's part of it. It's definitely challenging every year. I feel like coaches probably think you have to re-recruit your team. And I have an incredible group. Our chemistry is phenomenal, and I just feel like I have the right pieces, and still looking to continue building and bringing in more talent. But the team that I have, I feel like they're really committed, and I'm fortunate that I had 2 grad transfers that I added to the roster, and I think they're both kind of filling in what I lost with Dara and what I lost with Lauren Ebo. So that's been great.
Were any of them close to leaving that you had to kind of talk into staying, or were any teetering? How did that go?
Yeah, really is no. I didn't have to be an agent this offseason. I was just like, it was great. My end of the year meetings were awesome. I didn't and every year, honestly, it's totally different. So like you just never know. And I'm always kind of preparing myself for that meeting. You just never know. You can have somebody that you think is happy, and then, you know, you have a conversation and, you know, they put their name in the portal. So I didn't have any teetering. And that's, again, like I said, like was such a bright spot for me. And it was something that I'm really grateful for, that I have a team that wants to grow with me. So that's been great.
You mentioned South Carolina in the Final Four last year, and the Final Four, you know, blew ratings out of the waters. It was like the most exciting time to be a women's basketball fan, I think. Just an absolutely exciting tournament. How do you think that the coverage of the college game has changed, or do you think that there's any like particular reason why this year, like, it got so much hype?
Yeah, well, just, I mean, the level of play was unbelievable, fantastic. You know, Iowa with Caitlin Clark. There were more eyeballs on our tournament, but it was because of the style of play. It was because of the performances. And, you know, LSU, I mean, there's so many highlights throughout the whole tournament. And so I think the wave of interest just increased throughout March and in April. And that's what's so exciting, because I feel like there's a lot of parity in our game. And it was just great just to see that our product is gaining so much interest. And I think, as being a part of women's basketball, I've been so blessed, but we've always felt like we've had a great product for a very, very long time. So it was really rewarding just to see for us to garner that respect throughout this tournament. And I feel like that the momentum is still there. And you see Angel Reese, you know, what she's doing with NIL, and she's pretty much on every either news outlet or social media or on TV commercials. Like, what she's doing for the game, I think, is fantastic. And like I said, Caitlin Clark, just some phenomenal performances, and looking forward to seeing, you know, that momentum continue to swing in a positive direction this year, and the excitement behind it. I love being a part of it.
Well, how much harder did your players' job get when LSU brings in Haley Van Lith from Louisville? So they're already the national champs, bringing back a lot of that team, and then they get that kind of portal move.
I know. And I'm sitting back there like, well, I'm happy the ACC, SEC challenge, not playing them because they are loaded. Oh my gosh. So I was like, thanks for taking her out of the ACC, not having to play with Louisville against Louisville. But yeah, I mean, that roster is just loaded. So it's going to be interesting. The SEC is going to be tough, and they're obviously going to be one of, you know, they're number one, I think, preseason. So they're going to be the team to beat.
So one other thing that involves LSU, I know players have goals every year. Coaches do too. There's the team goals that you have, and then players may have individual goals. I'm wondering if one of your individual goals is to pull a Kim Mulkey deal. She got paid.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I was kind of, my agent was like, hey, did you see what Kim just got? Oh my gosh. Well, good for her. Cause I feel like when you're being rewarded for your gifts, it's like, it's going to help out every other coach, you know, in the women's game. So and she's been awesome. Like I have a lot of respect for her. And so I'm happy for her, but that was a tremendous bag, you know, so we're all kind of like, yeah, you know, congratulations, because, you know, it's always a trickle effect with having that type of respect and getting that type of financial abundance. So that great for her, because she's really changing the game for all of us.
I like your outfits better though. So going back to the ACC, the conference realignment stuff. I mean, we talk a lot about the impact on football, because the, you know, television contracts generally are just focused on Stanford and Cal football, but now you've got to play against them in women's basketball. And, you know, Stanford's been a powerhouse for years with Tara Vanderveer there. So how does that impact you going forward? And has that been something that you had to talk about with your players, or changed your recruiting pitch or anything like that?
Yeah, no, it's definitely exciting, because I mean, we're bringing in 3 top, you know, schools, like you mentioned, especially Cal and Stanford, but regionally, it's definitely going to be a change, I think, especially for them recruiting wise. But it's definitely going to make our conference even tougher. I feel like we have the toughest conference in women's basketball. We had eight teams that went to the tournament, and now you're adding, like you said, another powerhouse with Stanford and a Hall of Fame coach with Tara. So I didn't change my pitch, but it's definitely, I just always feel like the ACC conference prepares us for the tournament and helps us have the opportunity to go into the tournament and do well. And so I think it's a positive. I think they're, like I said, 3 top institutions, and they're going to bring a lot of greatness to our conference. And so I'm looking forward to it. But it's definitely going to be even more challenging, having to go out there and play in California just randomly in February. So,
well, and to that point now, luckily from travel's side, Notre Dame is at least in the Midwest, to go out west and for the West to come to you guys. But bring people inside a little bit, because this is something we've talked about with how the travel is going to work for, the non-football teams who travel charter, and it's still, and just there for a day or what's still difficult. But for basketball and for other sports as well, when these athletes have to travel from west to east or east to west, coast to coast, and the time they travel in the studies, just how difficult can this be?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think, especially with budgets, and that's totally the thing that I have to worry about outside of scheduling and outside of the game is just making sure that we're funded properly and we have enough budget wise money to be able to do this type of things. And there's some certain sports that need more help than others. Obviously, I think we all kind of understand that, but I definitely think that's going to be a constraint on a lot of programs. It's going to be very difficult, trying to manage that, because that's Texas and that's California in most cases, depending on home or away. So it's definitely going to probably bring a lot of difficulty as in the budget for a lot of programs. And for me, fortunately, I have a ton of support from our administration and resources. So I think that we're going to be okay. But, you do have to think about how that's going to challenge a lot of programs.
I have one more question. I have been watching a lot of former Notre Dame players in the WNBA this season, and there's a few really good ones in the playoffs right now. So how do you choose what team to root for when you're watching all these players play against one another?
I know. First of all, like you said, they're killing it in the league. We have second most WNBA players, alum, that are in the league, but we have, I think, the most dominant ones. And
for sure,
right now matchup, we got the aces in the wings. So Jackie Young versus Arike Agumbawale. Yeah. It is really difficult, but I always feel like it's a win-win. So if one of them loses, we still got another one that's in. So and we try to support so much, either going to Indianapolis or Chicago to watch them live and just support them. But I'm so proud of them. But it's definitely challenging because they're always playing against each other. But just to have so many alum that are contributing, but also making a big impact in the W has been awesome to watch.
Well, yeah, we really appreciate your time. Best of luck as this gets going, to see Notre Dame right there at the end. But man, have a ball on that trip. Like I said, I know it's a business trip, but going to Paris, I mean, man, that sounds
I want to go so bad.
Yeah,
Hey, I got 2 tickets for you guys. Let me know.
I heard it's sold out already.
It is sold out, but we can pull strings.
You got ways. We appreciate that very much.
Yeah, we got the Notre Dame ties. We're good.
There you go. Thanks a lot, Niele. Appreciate it. All right, Jess, I want to get back into the NFL, talk about a couple teams, but quickly, we had the Grand Prix in Japan. And it took all of one race for Red Bull and Max Verstappen to get back on top. They didn't win a race last week, at the first time in 15 races, weren't even on the podium. And there they are again, back at the top with Max. So same old.
Cool. Yeah, the Red Bull won the Constructors Championship. Max is probably going to tie up the Drivers Championship next race. I want to say he can do it, I think, in the sprint race. So yeah, Mike. It's been a long season of watching Red Bull win, but credit to McLaren, second and third place. They had a great race, Piastri and Norris, and we'll see how the rest shakes out in the behind Red Bull zone.
Yeah, behind Red Bull. It's exactly right. All right, I want to finish off in the NFL, some on the field and some football talk, but not football talk as well. Let's start with the Bears and just how bad this has turned out, going all the way back, just when people were talking about trade away Justin Fields, get one of these rookie quarterbacks that's in the league. Now, I was against that. I said, I like Justin. Let's see where he can go next. And certainly not all on him. They just have had such a lack of talent. Then they had the off-field issue with their D coordinator, Alan Williams. They have $100,000 worth of gear stolen out of their facility. I mean,
I shouldn't laugh, but what is happening, Mike? It is so bad. And Justin Fields got hammered for his response to a press conference question where I think if you listen to the full quote, it was not as bad as him blaming coaching for him not playing well. I interpreted it as he doesn't know either why suddenly he can't get the ball out of his hands and why he's not, doing what I think he knows he's capable of doing. I'm with you. I like Justin Fields. I actually thought he would be pretty good in the NFL. This organization is a complete dumpster fire. And if you were watching the Bears this weekend, it was just because Taylor Swift was at the Chiefs game. It wasn't, wasn't for anything happening on the field. It was a complete blowout.
Yeah, it was awful. I'm amazed how Luke Getsy and Justin Fields, Luke Getsy, the O coordinator, just can't seem to get on the same page at all here. I mean, and then that's football. Then there's the Alan Williams thing, the D coordinator. That's obviously not football and a real, life issue there.
Unclear what exactly happened. The official reports are that he was let go for a non-criminal inappropriate workplace conduct situation.
Yeah, so, HR was involved for the Bears.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out maybe someday what the real situation was. But there were so many rumors going around and unsubstantiated reports going around last week that I think a lot of people fell for. Like there was some rumor about Peanut Tillman, and I had to tell my dad, "No, Dad, that was fake news." Yeah,
and you got to definitely be careful about what gets out there on Twitter. I mean, it's ridiculous. But either way, it's been bad for the Bears. They have off the field, they're on the field. They, the guys, they've been bringing onto that team just haven't been clicking right now. We will see. But the team they played, it's certainly starting to click. Kansas City, we know, is going to be one of the top teams, and not just the AFC, but the NFL. But man, I mean, talk about finding out again. We're sports fans about just how big stars are outside the world of sports compared to athletes. As Taylor Swift was in the suite, sitting next to Travis and Jason's mother, Kelsey, I'm talking about, Donna, who's living her best life right now, without question. That she's there is Taylor Swift to see Travis Kelce. He rented out a restaurant after that for them and the team. And I mean, the Taylor Swift fans had to be Googling like crazy to find out who the hell Travis Kelce was, right? Because she is so much bigger overall than football and Travis Kelce.
Yeah, which is why I don't know. I feel like I'm not entirely sure how organic this meeting was between Taylor Swift and the Chiefs.
Conspiracy theory.
It's not really a conspiracy theory, more so like I think very smart PR people were involved. But then I think the counter to that is like, there's no way that anyone involved in the NFL or with the Chiefs, or even like Bill Belichick, giving his cute little comment in his press conference, not all of them can be in on it, right? Like it almost worked out too well. And it's mind-boggling to me how great of a opportunity this was for the NFL to look cool, for the Chiefs to look cool, for Travis Kelce to look cool, for Taylor Swift to look like fun and awesome. Like it was too perfect, Mike. And that's why my like conspiracy theory alarm bells started ringing. Cause if I were Taylor Swift's publicist, like I'd be like, go to a Chiefs game and start dating rumors with Travis Kelce, because the entire world blew up. It almost overshadowed the Dolphins putting up 70 points on the Broncos on Sunday.
It also overshadowed Usher being named this halftime show at the Super Bowl.
Complete afterthought. Complete afterthought.
And my son Mike, who is a Swiftie, said that's the mastermind of Taylor Swift. Stealing the headlines there.
That's true.
Over the headline, headlining the Super Bowl halftime. But I love this for however long it lasts. At some point, Travis Kelce will get a song written about him, I'd imagine, because that's what Taylor Swift does. But I think Travis can handle it better than any of the other people she dated, because Travis is just a cool dude, right? He's a nice guy. Just a fun-loving guy.
Mike, I really have nothing negative to say about him. I met him like years ago when I was like 22, I think, covering a Super Bowl with Charlotte Wilder, who, from Wilder Wednesdays. And like years later, I saw him in the Chiefs locker room after the Super Bowl, and he remembered me and was like, so nice. And it was just like shocking to me, because I was like, a lot of media athlete relations sometimes can be a little awkward and weird, and he was just like the nicest guy. So yeah, good for him, good for Taylor, but really good for the NFL. Like good for the NFL. Yeah, they pulled it off.
But I will leave you with this: the best Kelce Swift combination on the football field
is Eagles
in Philadelphia. Okay. Jason Kelce and DeAndre Swift, the running back for the Eagles. That's going to get the Eagles further than Kelce and Taylor Swift.
I love it.
And I'm done.
See you next week, Mike.